Actually, we'll be able to test our sound, I think, just via this opener.
It's weird not being able to see you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are in business. We apologize for the last 2 weeks having sound issues, but it would appear that we have figured it out. I can now hear my illustrious co-host, Magpie Jones. I'm Enan J, and this is the Parasocialdise podcast, week 3 of Bachelor in Paradise, where we break down the episode and we goss. Isn't that right, Maggie? How you feeling tonight?
I'm good. Lots of drama.
Lots of drama. I'm going to state right at the top, though, yesterday's was a lot better episode than tonight's. Am I wrong?
Tonight was an interesting one. It made you kind of wonder how much might be staged on this Bachelor in Paradise. I know some rumor mills are going around.
That's a good point. For our audience members, Margaret and I got the group chat with the mother as we're watching this, and she definitely came out swinging tonight saying, this whole lesbian triangle is a ploy. This is all staged. I don't necessarily know if that's true. If there is some sort of underhanded business going on, I think it probably has more to do with Demi wanting to get her girlfriend on live TV, even if it costs Derek's heart, because I did believe his pain. But let's not jump to the end of tonight's episode before we talk about yesterday's episode, night 1. Here's what got me. The opener of last night was so much more interesting than the opener of tonight's episode. Why was that? What started us off? Give us a recap here.
Me? You're the one who's...
The fight.
Oh, yes. Jordan Kimball, my hero. Although you and the mother say that it's he started it. No, I think that he was defending himself. He has every right to take that piñata down, and he got attacked, and he defended himself, and he stopped fighting once it was over, or once he threw him to the ground. He stepped back, and that other dude, what's his name? I don't know, went after him. No, I know his name's Christian. I just don't like him.
Well, we got 2 Christians now. Yeah, I'm not a fan of either of them. I liked Jordan last week, but this week, just the violence. He was the one that body slammed him. You're absolutely right. Christian may have been the first aggressor and just monkeying around with the piñata. But as you can see, that's our premier gift here between Christian and Jordan here. Can you give me the context a little bit more? I was kind of confused, to be honest with you, trying to understand what was going on moving from last week, having not thought too much about it since last week.
Well, poor Nicole thinks it's about her, but it's not. And I think a few people mentioned that they had a rift prior to going on the show with the end of Becca's season that they both were on. I think Christian got eliminated week 2 or week 1 even, and on the Men Tell All, they sometimes bring in those people who didn't have much screen time, and then Christian essentially sought some screen time by attacking Jordan. They're both models, male models, and it was just a bit of trying to get some screen time on Christian's side of coming onto Men Tell All and attacking Jordan, who everyone was attacking Jordan on Men Tell All because he was the villain of the season. But this guy out of nowhere attacks him, who was on that show with him for maybe 3 days. And yeah, they didn't get on very well in that episode.
You raised an interesting point, and I'm wondering then if, based on last week's Jordan getting denied and seeing that it was the Blake show, do you think he saw that, you know what, this season I'm screwed? my best chance of getting a little bit of clout, getting a little bit of PR, is to go full-blown testosterone A-bomb and pick the fight of the season. Be the trail of
I
last week's
don't
on
know.
top of this week's.
I don't know if he suspected that that was gonna be what's his name reaction. Like Mike said, is that like he could have just played it cool and he could have just like let him take the pinata and you know Jordan could have walked away with it and threw it into the ocean like he did with the big teddy bear on last year's season. And he got a commercial or like part of the previews for Bachelor in Paradise featured that moment. But pinata is a bit less dramatic than I think a big old teddy bear. So I don't know if he was doing it for the screen. Like he could never have predicted what Christian's reaction was going to be. I think I would say about 10% of him wanted to stick up for Clay because Clay wasn't going to stick up for himself. And he just went around about it in a very childish way.
Do you think Nicole is secretly loving that there's boys fighting over her?
Oh yeah, she was like not even remotely popular on her season. So
that's a good point. She never went on a date, right? And now she's been on two dates since the season's begun.
And it seems like her and Clay are hot and heavy now. So she's getting ultimately what she wanted by going on The Bachelor in the first place. So I think their relationship's a bit dorky. It's not one I would want to be in, but to each their own.
That's the $1 million question. Are those two as hot and heavy if we didn't lose the two other guys that were going after her?
Right. Yeah, they talk about like being the leftovers. I don't know which relationship it was. Being like, oh, what do you call it when you're like second place? You get the second prize, whatever.
Runner-up. Consolation prize. Consolation
prize. That's the word. Yeah. And it's almost. I mean, yes, she needed the reality, just like we'll get into Katie in a little bit. Like, needed to have those experiences in order to know what she really wanted, like Chris maybe did in the Katie situation. But I think she was going to take all the attention that she could get for the entire season and run with it. I'm not certain that this was the result she anticipated, but it's kind of her only option now. And I like Clay. Everyone loves Clay, but I think she was aching for something a bit more dominant, I guess.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I think the irony is that Clay is such this beefcake, but then he's got this like frog in his throat where he doesn't seem to be able to assert himself vocally. To me, Clay's biggest weakness is his articulation, vocal tone. That's just coming from the speech coach in me, but I feel like he does not demonstrate any sort of manliness via his voice.
Articulates, but he just doesn't have a voice. I mean, I have a deep voice for a woman. He has a higher voice for a man. So I think that I know that he's expressed through like social media and stuff his insecurities about his voice. He's not unaware that his voice is a little bit on the less dominant side. So I just can't imagine what kind of direction he'd go down if he had the manly man voice. So I think
that's interesting. The fact that you're telling me that he's aware of it makes me cut him some slack a little bit more. Let's talk about the reactions, though, to the fight, right? Because we're getting cuts to Katie and Chris, complete shock and awe, knowing that this is Chris' 6th season. He's seen other fights. Is Chris really shocked that you got all these people in a little cluster cage on an island? There's going to be a fight? Do we buy into the shock and awe? Is Jordan the type of guy that you would expect this from? I mean,
it was a pretty big brawl. It was how many producers and security had to get involved to stop that from progressing even further. And it almost got to the point where Christian caught up with Jordan. So there's really no choice but to send them both in different directions. Everyone fearing the danger, that they're dangerous, I think was a way overreaction. But I think that their initial shock and awe also could have been booze fueled in the sense of like they're watching a movie and this is how they're going to react. I don't know. I don't know if it was put on or it was just kind of go along with the crowds on that one for Chris.
Does Wells cut people off? Is that bartender actually gonna like say, "Nah, you've had too much. If you drink anymore,
No.
that's not gonna help
Did
the show."
did he do anything where he cut people off?
No. I'm just saying Wells wants to be
No.
the softest
If
possible.
anything, he's gonna make him real strong. I think that guy is all down for the drama. He loves feeding the fire.
I totally agree with you. Let's hope
Plus, he's got to keep his fiance entertained. She watches the show and loves the drama.
Well, there you go. I was unaware. Did he meet his fiance via the show, Bachelor Nation? We now have an intruder. Intruder alert! Intruder alert! In Bachelor Nation, someone that doesn't belong. Intruder alert! We'll get to that later.
No.
But my God, the response to the new Christian's arrival from some of the girls, she didn't go through the hellfires like we did.
So too now.
Yeah, so we had the Chris and Katie shock and awe. I kind of wasn't really buying it. Producers then run off of it. Let's do the blow by blow. So you got the pinata incident. He throws him down on the ground, as demonstrated by our little meme action here, or a GIF action. And then you're telling me Jordan tries to run away like a little biatch?
He didn't really run away. I think
What happened there? I was a little confused. I should rewatch it.
He was standing there, and Christian was going after him, but he didn't like run away. He just was escorted away.
How old are these producers? Do we have any like, mature producers, like 20 years on any of these guys? Is Chris the oldest person, including the producers?
I followed some of the producers on social media, and they're all about 35, 36. I don't think they're too old.
Interesting.
So it's just a big party at this thing, I tell you. They're all friends.
So Harrison is really the oldest one, and I want to talk a little bit more about Harrison in a minute here when we wrap up this fight. Here's my follow-up question to the fight as we wrap up our discussion of the big brawl. I got a text from you saying, I love a good brawl. Have you ever had gentlemen go to blows fighting for you?
Oh yeah, all the time. No, I've actually had men throw drinks in my face in college. I remember that. That was fun.
Oh, that's awesome. What, down at U of I?
Oh yeah, legends. But I then got to have my coworkers throw the guy out. So
that's amazing. I didn't have a drink, the liquid thrown in my face, but at Murphy's down in Champaign, I had an actual pint glass, an empty one, thrown at my head. So we're quite
right next to each other. Yeah. No, I've never actually seen a real life fight, I don't think.
You've never seen a real fight?
I'm trying to think.
Oh, you've seen me get my ass kicked. But we'll save that for a private guest.
Oh yeah, I've seen a fight.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Moving on.
I think I blacked that one out.
Was it fair for Christian to get sent home too based on the zero tolerance policy?
Yeah, he was doing nothing for the show anyways. Bye! I don't like Christian. I don't even want to talk about him. He's forced.
All right. Well, we're going to be talking about the Christian with a K, very much so. But later. My final question, though. My final question. Who would actually win that fight? If it was able to go to blows, who is winning?
Christian.
Christian would kick Jordan's ass?
Yeah, that's why he was willing to take it to the end. I think if Jordan thought he'd beat his ass, Jordan would be running right at him.
I got to say, that body slam was not nothing. It wasn't even on, like...
I thought it was a good body slam. Are you saying
that's
it was...
what I'm saying. It's not nothing. It was pretty serious considering he, like, pulled him down 3 steps. He, like, threw him off a little mini...
Yeah. He was airborne. He was airborne. And it was very graceful to a certain respect because Jordan didn't fall. He just went... Whoop.
It did look a little WWE. That's my question. Do people like Jordan and Christian then have trouble getting even modeling jobs when they know you're an aggressive guy? Is that the sort of thing that's going to haunt him in the future?
I don't know. I've not heard of anybody's careers going downhill after being on these shows. If anything, they get more gigs.
Really? Okay. I know some people's lives on Big Brother that have been ruined by Big Brother, but maybe Bachelor Nation's a little bit different. They're like a cult, which we'll talk about later.
Do Big Brother people do endorsements and stuff after their shows?
Rarely, rarely. One of the most
Yeah.
notable people that has done anything of late is season 15's Nick Uhas is now a host of a Netflix reality show called Blown Away about competitive glass blowing, which is actually a really fun show to watch. I guess there's one girl from season 1 of Big Brother that's a billionaire for some sort of makeup company. I just learned about this today watching McCrae's feed. You can do stuff, but I would say it's rarer than not when it comes to actually utilizing Big Brother for good.
Yeah, every single person from the Bachelor franchise gets some endorsement gig.
We can definitely talk compare and contrast.
That's why I can't really follow them.
Well, you got to think about just the nature, the tenor of the show. Big Brother, you're going in there, you're expected to lie. In Bachelor in Paradise, you're theoretically going in there trying to find love. You're opening up your heart. You're supposed to be more open and lovable. It's not Big Brother's.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense to me that you're telling me people have more of a career after Bachelor Nation.
Mm-hmm. Especially if they're in the modeling scene to begin with, or in any sort of entertainment scene. That's why this season, Jed, who ended up winning, went on the show for fame in his music career and got outed for that. It's like, is that so shocking? Come on.
Let's talk about the first date, right? Wasn't it Cam? Didn't Cam have the first date yesterday?
Cam?
Onyeka and Cam, did they not go on a date, or am I crazy? Did I make this up? Am I reading my notes wrong? Onyeka and Cam are at the bottom of the barrel, scraping for any sort of attention. I remember last week, they kind of looked at each other. It's like, let's do the friendship rose thing. But, okay,
yeah.
Dylan's date.
I don't think
Dylan's date.
Yes, Dylan got to go, because they started with the rose ceremony where she chose Dylan over Blake.
We'll get into Cam being gone in a second here. My notes are a little out of order tonight. I want to know, are gummies ever a good mood when it comes to a date snack ever?
I like this. They had to have talked about it at some point, that he thought that was going to be a nice treat to bring on the thing. Because they were specific, the gummy worms with the sour, whatchamacallit on it. I don't know what they're called.
Well, the sour gummy worms, right? Isn't that what they were?
Sour gummy worms, yeah. They had to have talked about it, because they can request certain things be brought to their picnics. So he probably requested it for Hannah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's like the best thing as far as like romance is concerned, but I think there was thought behind it.
If she's a fan of gummies, are those the right gummies? I'm coming from personal experience here. A girl that I dated said she loved gummies, so I went on my way and I got her a big old bag of gummies, but they were the wrong kind of gummies, and you should have seen that stink face I got.
The safe route is to go down the Haribo standard gummy bears.
I went Haribo, but I went the cherry cola Haribos, and she didn't like them. She was like, "No, that's not mine. That's not my flavor."
Well, you're limiting her to one flavor. You gotta get the multi-pack.
That's true. I rarely see that though. I actually saw a watermelon one recently that looked pretty delicious. Tried to pick it up, but they weren't on sale. It was like $2. I'm like, oh my god. Okay. Back up before we start digging into Dylan's date even further. I have a question that preempted that. Is it possible for Blake to have been prompted by production prior to lay seeds with as many of the girls as possible to have a story already that they could count on at the top of the season? Is it possible? Because we were talking last week about whether or not some of this is put on. How much cognizance Blake has of the destiny that he's trying to fulfill? Or do you think it's possible that the producers were like, dude, get on the horn with as many of these girls as possible. We need the player archetype. Can you do this for us? Is that a possibility?
So I think there's a few ways to look at it. Is that he in his season was the opposite of a player. Like he lost. He was the second, he was first runner up. So he was down on one knee proposing and got rejected, and he was seen as very hurt at the end of it, very damaged, very vulnerable, very emotional. And he maintained that persona up until the point where he came on this show. So like I said in past discussions, I think he just got caught up in it all, because once he was able to get over Becca and be able to like move on with his life, women from Bachelor Nation were throwing themselves at him based on this persona that he had of being the nice guy, and he just didn't know any better. And I honestly don't think it was in any way manipulative or conniving or put on by or something where the producers had any say into it. I think they just definitely used it as a storyline, but I think it was all him the entire time. And I think that and I say it works both ways. Is these girls also are getting attention too, and they have, copious amounts of attention thrown at them from the other bachelors and Bachelor Nation. And who says that these girls aren't finding the other bachelors from the other seasons at Stagecoach, as I was a Stagecoach, and hooking up with them? It's just not publicized. And I do think he got a little, I know that this has affected him based on his social media mistakes since since these episodes have aired. And he's probably worse off than he was going on the show. So I don't think he'd voluntarily commit himself to putting this out there in the airwaves.
Fair enough. But as the cynic that I am, isn't the most shrewd player on The Bachelor going to want to be that runner-up, going to want to be dejected to potentially be the big dog of the paradise or get picked for the next Bachelor? Isn't that kind of the honey spot? Because then you have the whole pool of the Bachelor audience.
I think that was
throwing themselves at him.
I think that's what, there's a good meme out there that has the last two winners of Bachelor and Bachelorette, Jed and Cassie, going on saying, "Oh, I went on The Bachelor, for fame, and didn't think I'd win," or something. It's more clever than that, but it shows that these people did want to make it far to promote their brands, but they never wanted to be the winner, and they just ended up being so because the main character became infatuated with them and just got away from them. But I don't think, based on Blake's reaction and how he didn't move on quickly after the show, and he did become the next Bachelor, and he didn't, make the tabloids like Tyler from this season is dating Gigi Hadid after coming in second place. So although I do like him, I don't think he's like purposely went on the show to do that, but just happened to be the case. And he definitely relished in it after he lost. But Blake didn't do that. Blake didn't relish at all after he lost. He fell off the radar for a little while, and he was in a sad state on the after the rose ceremony about his rejection. So I just think he's a normal dude. Got casted, fell in love, then got a lot of attention, and it took him a while to get over Becca. But then once he did, that attention turned into poor decisions.
Fair enough.
But you know what? He's right. He didn't do anything wrong. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not gonna
if it wasn't for you, I think I would hate him a little bit more. You do put things in a little more perspective. You do have that extra insight via his social media posts. So I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack here. As we talk a little bit more about whether or not we are buying into Dylan and Hannah, even though she gave him a rose. Because I personally feel like Dylan, if I was Hannah, would be so exhausting. He's going to be watching her every move forever. He's going to be one of the most clingy guys ever. There's no stress with Blake. We talked about this last week, but sadly our audio was a little junked up. We're talking about Dylan being her high school boyfriend. Blake is more of the mature boyfriend who's not going to be just like monitoring you constantly.
Yeah, but I mean, I think Dylan did show a bit of maturity and confidence in how he, maintained that they had something without getting too much in her business when she was flaunting her making out sessions with Blake, like he had to suck it up and be good with it. But 110% do believe that Hannah and Dylan are not going to last. I don't think she's that into him.
No.
No, I think that he's almost too boyish for her. I do actually think she's she's a bit more mature than her age.
He's a gay brother. He's her gay brother. Did you see what happened? Somebody came up there with some drama, and he was with Hannah. There was another person there, but like when he went to like say, "Oh, are you hearing this? Check out this drama." He like put his nose on the back of her like shoulder. It just didn't. There was nothing like romantic about it. It just felt.
It's a high school crush across both ways, and I mean they're both 24. They both have like 10 years of dating or whatever they're going to do. Like, I mean, I don't think either of them are going to be in a rush to get married. They're definitely not going to get engaged at the end of the show. 24 years old is like right after you get out of college. I don't see settling down anytime soon, especially with someone you had to think so strongly about wanting to give a rose to.
Especially when Hannah could be a bachelorette and Dylan could never, ever be a bachelor.
Right, he's not a leading man. No, he's not a leading man. I obviously in our first podcast where we didn't have audio again, explained like super crushing on him, really liked him, thought he was, super charming, super cute, which I still do. I think he's cute, and I think he's definitely one of the more attractive ones on the beach. I am annoyed by him. I think I would be annoyed by him kind of just not leaving her side and letting her do her own thing now that they're together. Like he was doing an okay job when she was trying to discover what was going on with her and Blake. But I think now that he's won and he's got dibs, I think it's a possessive kind of
very controlling. I'm be scared.
Yeah.
Future stalker in the making there. Before we start digging into the rose ceremony, I want to digress a little bit here, and I want to talk about something I've really been thinking about this week more than a lot of the other stuff, just because I find this kind of interesting. The host, Harrison himself, because there was multiple occasions in many of these episodes where the contestants really have a bond with Chris in a way that I haven't really seen other hosts connect with their players before. What do you think it is about his role as the host of this show that makes him different than like a Julie Chen of Big Brother or a Phil Keogh of Amazing Race, where I feel like they're a little more detached? He is almost like this.
Yeah. I mean, he goes to their weddings when they end up getting married. And he's invited to christenings and baby showers and all that kind of stuff. I think that it's like I don't want to say it's like a teacher, because I think that teachers can let go, and he can let go. But if a student wants to connect with a teacher again, they're going to connect with them, or the teacher's not going to like reject that opportunity to find out what's going on in your life, how you're doing, how far you become, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that I think they're all very young still, and he's not very young, but he's not very old either, so he can it's like the cool uncle kind of situation, I think. And he's also, he's never throws a lot of judgment out there. He'll definitely throw some hard questions at these people, but he'll never like throw out, that's a poor decision, or I think you should go this route, or you're really looking like a dumbass kind of host. He'll, like Julie Chen throws some shade, man. She really she'll say, what her opinion is. And I think with Chris Harrison, he could do an eye gesture or something, but he doesn't really share his opinions. He'll share his guidance, but not
objective. And Julie's much more subjective. But what's interesting is when I initially wrote this note, I asked what is it about him, Harrison, makes him an ominous host? But then that was kind of refuted when you saw how close Demi like thought she was to him, because pretty much every time Harrison appears, something bad is about to happen. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily the case with somebody like Jeff Probst. Probst is there during live competitions, and he's just given play-by-plays. I feel like there's more of a jovial friendship created between like a Probst and the players, even though, of course, they then have to deal with him at harsh tribal councils where he will be subjective to some degree.
Yeah,
but
there's banter.
Chris has walking this weird line where every time they see him, it's usually bad news.
And they mentioned that a few times in the last couple episodes. Like, Chris Harrison's here. I think, first of all, I want to know what he's doing in the meantime. He comes on for like 10 minutes at a time, and God, what a life he has. What a life.
That's a good point. The end of episode 1, right? When Demi wants to talk to him, and they're like, I really need to talk to Chris. What are they, like, wake him up from his siesta? They waking him up from a nap? Oh, my God, I got to go talk to Demi now.
Right, or when the fight happened, they're like, we need to get Chris Harrison in here. Oh, my God. And, I mean, every other show, all the Bachelor, Bachelorette stuff, he has some fun. I think it's become kind of, a joke now of like these weird times that he shows up and pops into the scene. But I think that, I know that the producers have really good relationships with the contestants after the show. I mean, they form good relationships on the show, but a lot of them stay friends with these guys and go to barbecues with them and, again, go to their weddings and stuff. So, I saw the Chris, is it Chris? Yeah, Chris, the older guy, he was barbecuing with one of the producers on social media just this weekend. So I think that's pretty stalker-esque of me. I wasn't really stalking. It's just my feed.
I think that's what casting agents do, though. Why wouldn't you want to, if you were a casting agent, start putting people on these shows that could benefit your life in the future? Just, again, the cynic in me can't help but think,
oh, Chris owns
people
bars
there that I want to be friends with or that I think could be fun.
Oh, yeah, bring something to the table. Yeah, for sure. Just think of like all the careers that these guys have. Go ahead.
Talk about the actual rose exchange. There was one odd moment before any rose was exchanged. You know what I speak of? We're talking about Anyanka here. I think she did the right thing. I really actually respect her for what she did. How do you feel about it?
Totally. It's happened before on other seasons too, where somebody feels that it's just not the setting for them. And I think some people get that gut feeling, and they just know that they are not going to find their partner in Bachelor Nation, at least on another film show. So some people find each other like at other events, but I respect her for it too. I felt for Cam. I think that would have been a nice thing to do. But if you have it in your gut that you're just not feeling it, it's not going to happen, like, why waste your time? Like, time is so valuable. And she didn't owe anything to Cam, right? He's kind of annoying.
But did I miswrite my notes here? Because I put JPJ said that he thought it was unfair of Anyanka to bail like she did.
I don't know who it was, but that rings a bell.
Because JPJ gave the rose to Anyanka on the last one, right? So I think he was the one that was a little more hurt. Maybe I've erased that from my brain.
Whatever. He got a rose from Tayshia. So, however, Tayshia's not in the previews, and JPJ is all over the place in the next episode. So, and they're saying something shocking happens at the next episode. So I'm curious to see what happens.
Let's discuss Tayshia and JPG after we get through the matches. Let's get through these matches here, the roses. Kaylin and Dean, how are we feeling about Kaylin and Dean?
I like them. I think Dean's stepping up as he's changing his persona slowly but surely, because he was a bad guy in Bachelor Winter Games as well as Bachelor in Paradise. So I think that he's found himself. And I think, however, Caitlyn might just be a a little too dramatic for his laid-back life, but opposite attracts, so who knows?
Well, plus he did turn down Jen's offer for the date. Although I will say,
Yeah,
to me,
especially when
Jen
he
seems like a better Kaylin. Am I wrong on this? I feel like they're the same. Like they look really similar to me. Maybe my
they
eyeballs.
both have a lot of Botox.
Is that what's going on? They just feel like the same
Oh,
archetype.
yeah.
But Kaylin seems a little scarier to me right now.
Kaylin's 24 and Jen's 29, so there's an age difference there. So, yeah, I mean, Jen made it pretty far on Bachelor in Paradise 2 seasons ago with Nick, and didn't know of her until that show because I didn't watch Ben's season. But yeah, she's pretty popular in the network, so I wasn't surprised to see a lot of people excited to see her there. But yeah, Dean rejected her, so he must like Kaylin. I have a feeling maybe they talked before the show.
Could be. And plus, you got to realize, kind of like Christina, who we'll get to in a minute here, hey, stick with somebody you know who's going to give it real rose back, you know? Why would you risk getting sent off of free booze island, you know? Shoot.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Okay, next couple up was JPJ and Tayshia. So let's talk about those two. To me, that was a little out of the blue. I did not see any connection with them in previous episodes that made me understand what happened there. Did I miss something?
There was something in the episode prior, like to last week. But it was just kind of an acknowledgement that they found each other attractive. Okay. JPG was just talking about how beautiful she was, but lo and behold, she's drawn to him. It could be another opposites attract kind of thing.
He's a little too cheeseball for me. JPJ is kind of losing me a little bit, similar to how I love Demi, and now like, fuck Demi. But he sounded like a little super villain. He goes ha ha ha. The way he laughs, there's a little bit of artifice to JPG that I hadn't noticed before. But there is also that kind of like schoolboy charm that you got to give him. He did say that he was nervous like a schoolboy. But when I look at his techniques, next to the Harrison GIF, we have him going in for a kiss with Tayshia. That's a really weird technique, isn't it?
I noticed that he whenever he can find something to say or any witty banter, he would just make out with her. I think that he's what he said, like it sometimes sounded scripted, or he thought about what he was going to say and then said it, which is fine, which a lot more people should do. But a bit robotic at times. I wouldn't want to say contrived, but I think he is who he admit he's like, the perception is that this is what I am, and he's like, just like the Clay thing, you can't judge someone by their voice, and I think that, or their dialects, and that he just so happens to have probably always spoke that way, and it's part of his person now, and it's part of his who he is, and I think that it's part of his charm that she saw, and she goes, you know, he's cute, but he's also really smart, and so we must have missed part of that conversation because
we missed any smart moments. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt too. I think he maybe just is a little bit stilted by the cameras. Maybe he comes off a little too. I think stilted is the right word. He doesn't come off as sincere and smooth as he maybe could be, or smart as she's claiming. It was especially highlighted, I felt like, when Hannah re-entered. I don't want to jump too much, but his response when she goes, "Hey JPJ, how are you doing?" He goes, "I'm doing terrifically well." It was just super weird when he said it. It was funny, but it just, I don't know, didn't seem organic to me.
I like him. I think he's a good character for the show. Keep him around. I mean, he will be around next episode. Whew.
Yeah, no, he's definitely a good character. And now that Cam's gone, who else am I gonna root for? I guess Derek, but Derek's rude now.
No, bring me on the show.
Okay. What's going on with Sydney and Mike? Because I didn't see anything between those two when they got rosed up.
I know. Well, yeah, and they definitely showed some more interaction. Well, not even just far on the beach where they're observing the two having a chat. But I just think they're both very basic and wonderful people, but quite boring. So they're not getting screen time, but they must have a connection. I think their conversations are probably the most adult of the entire group. And they're probably the most, normal and not dramatic that, they could, it would have been, that would have been Katie and Chris if Katie didn't stick her foot in her mouth. So, because they weren't getting screen time until that happened, but apparently they had a connection as well. So I think it's just that they're the most adult of the group.
I could see that, but you did see Mike's reaction when Alabama Hammer entered. He got hot about that. Oh my God, that's Hannah. She's here for a reason. Mike is a religious fellow, right? Am I wrong about that one? He's a man of God.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so
he was thinking it was meant to be. Yeah. Oof for him.
Not good for Sydney. Not good for Sydney. Okay, so as you noted, Chris and Katie were waffling on now that Katie's kind of doofus moded it. Am I missing a couple? I don't feel like I wrote anybody else. Derek and Demi. Is that it? Could be. Okay. Let's talk about the jerks that got kicked off. And what was their fatal flaw? You know I love Cam. You know I'm going to miss Cam. But he is the living embodiment of why you need to be self-aware in this world. He just isn't. He doesn't know what he is. He says, I'm this romantic. I just want a wife. I just want kids. But that's not something you say if you want those things so overtly and so desperately. I love Cam. I feel for him.
It is true. It's the self-awareness. Sometimes there's a lot of people in this world that don't have it. And sometimes you can be overly self-aware too, and you can sabotage yourself. So he just,
was that Katie?
I would say it's Katie for sure. And I think, a lot of people in general just, poor Cam. He'll be fine. He'll find somebody at the grocery store, probably already with a baby, and it'll be love. It'll be love.
What was Will's fatal flaw? Where did Will's go wrong?
Will, everyone in Bachelor Nation loves Will's. So angry that he was casted off. Will's is personally, I don't find him that attractive. He's got great eyes, but I think he's.
You know what it is. You know what it is. It's the white tips. The hair is absurd. He looks like an old man, like we talked about last week. There's nothing attractive about a man in his 20s with white hair. Not.
I think he's also comes off as overly confident. And then he'll only show his vulnerable side when he's rejected or off like in the confessionals. And I don't think he shows it too much with outside of that, because he went in for kisses with those girls upon first sitting down with them. So, he needs to maybe be, I don't know. I'm not going to criticize him because he's got a lot of fans, and I'm a fan as well. So I don't know. I think I don't know. I don't know what a fatal flaw.
A Bachelor Nation girl is suited for him, as we talked about last week. A Bachelor Nation girl is not suited for Cam either.
Right.
You know who is suited for a Bachelor Nation girl who got dumped?
God. Gavin Mantino.
When you're only in the show for the first 10 minutes of episode 1 talking to Chris Harrison, you know you're screwed by episode 5 if you're still in it, right? Come on. All he had was that first 10 minutes with Harrison. Otherwise, we didn't see jack shit from him. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, he hit it off with Katie in the first episode. He was complimenting her and all this stuff. I thought they were in it for the long run because they both got those crazy eyes and what made them a really cute couple. But he's just so shallow. I was intrigued because he's from our neck of the woods, and follow it and looking at his social media. First of all, I actually props to him because his social media was, I don't know if it still is, was private. So you have to request to follow him. But as soon as you get into it, it's just all muscle pictures.
Oh my God. Good riddance.
Face and muscle. But then he says some really not profound, but he says some good one-liners that you're like, oh, he probably just wasn't comfortable with the cameras either.
Maybe. Plus, he's all proteined up, probably steroided up, and not thinking like a normal human. But I don't know. That's conjecture.
Yeah,
That's
that's
libelous
true.
of me. How dare I? Let's talk about these 2 new entries that I'm not too excited about, to be honest with you.
2,
Am I crazy,
3.
or is it got to be 1,000 times harder to enter the show late?
It sucks, man. You yeah, I wouldn't even want to. Be like, put me at the beginning or don't put me at all. Because you, A, get half the time. B, you have to fight against already established connections. C, you're seen as the enemy as soon as you walk on that sand. And I would not want to be those people by any means. But I think they all handle it really well because they're super confident. I really especially like Caitlyn.
You do. Okay, we're on different pages here because
Okay.
I don't not like her, but I really did not absorb any sort of meaningful anything from her. I felt like the only interesting part about their whole date was Blake's one-off to the camera on his own saying, you know what this date helped me realize? That I need to forgive myself. I can't remember anything she said.
So I don't care about her and Blake. I liked how she well, no, I don't really know if I liked it, but she definitely stood out as a strong personality when she confronted Christina. Because in a certain respect, I think Christina's a bit of a bully. She went from being very vulnerable, and she was I didn't like her per se, but she got the shit beaten out of her in the last Bachelor in Paradise. But she wasn't self-aware enough to like let these men go. And then she's doing it again with Blake. And she does say in the confessional, she's doing it to make his life miserable. But then she just won't leave him alone. It's like, I don't know if that's really truly her intention.
I feel like she was very clear about that, and that was one of the reasons that put me off from Caitlyn, is I felt like Caitlyn was the aggressor there, and she kept framing the conversation like Christina was the one that was defensive. Well, sure, you're going to get defensive when you are being accused of wanting to stay on Booze Island and just getting a rose from your friend. So what? I'm on board for that. I'm on board for Christina, who I find funny, who I find bubbly and much more entertaining and sassy and willing to stand up for herself. Much more of a compelling character to me than Caitlyn, who I feel was a little aggro and like she's going to have the. I mean, Christina has been with Blake, right?
Yeah, sure.
Caitlyn
but they've been friends outside the show. They can be friends outside the show. Like the show is, you're supposed to be coming on the show to find love, and there's only so many weeks left. I don't think that personally Blake would have a chance, nor would Christina. So her giving him the rose was kind of, I don't know, just a waste. And I think the people who come on the show late, they do have to fight for their lives, and they do have to, try to maneuver these people and their intentions. And yes, of course, coming into that conversation saying, what's your motive? It's not going to set it on the right direction at all. And any woman or man is going to get defensive by that accusation.
Women gotta respect other women, though. Come on. What do you think about that? Was that a low blow? When you play the gender card, like, hey, I'm a woman, you're a woman, we gotta be on each other's side.
We can go into the gender conversation all day long. And this last episode. I don't know.
So Caitlyn picks Blake. I felt like that was a stupid move that put her in my shit books right off the top, but it did.
Who else was she gonna choose? She had no other choice. The only person she had an opportunity of creating a connection with was Blake.
Fair enough. There was nobody else she could have tried for? What about Eric?
Yeah, but he still had that thing with Demi, and I'd be scared of Demi if I thought that she really liked Derek. I wouldn't step on her toes. That's just asking for trouble.
I do find it interesting, though. Blake went to Chris to talk about it, though. After his date with Caitlyn, it seems like Chris is one of these guys that people just like to talk to. He's almost like Harrison 2.0. You know what I mean? Of all the likely dudes to take over for Harrison, it seems like Chris would be only because it seemed like there was multiple guys, and even like Katie, they talk more like they're just like old friends more than romantic. I feel like Chris is like a good ear because he knows the world so well. He's such a Bachelor vet.
He's been on the shows. Agreed. And I thought you were talking about Chris Harrison to begin with. I was like, we already talked about this. No. Yeah, and that's why I actually thought it was interesting that Jen chose Chris, because he does give off a friend vibe. And I felt that on the boat even they were very friendly. But I did like that he took her, which actually was really brutal to Katie, but he took her on a continued date afterwards. But to answer your question, yeah, I do think Chris is the other confidant, and Derek for people on the show, probably just because of their age.
Fair. Just to kind of wrap up that date. When Wells is in front of Blake and Caitlin asking, so what's going on between you guys? How's that going? And Blake goes, good! He does like the crackly voice guy from The Simpsons. Is that a tell? Did Caitlin immediately know?
Yeah, she called him out. She was, that's not how you react.
Good!
I think Blake is just saving face at this moment in time. I don't think he's going to like anyone other than Hannah. And he wants to stay on to maintain his dignity. And that's about it. I don't think he's going to fall for anyone on the show.
So, I don't want to go over this too much again, but I've respected Christina for saying, I just want a rose. I know.
The
guy that enters down the line. Who cares? I'm being honest.
And thinking about it, yeah, you've definitely, of course. I respect her for that, actually.
I don't like that she was called a mosquito.
She owns it. A mosquito? Who called her a mosquito?
I think it was probably Caitlin. She's like, a mosquito. We gotta kill that. Oh, that was what was really funny though when
But she doesn't really make friends with the girls, and I don't like girls who don't make friends with girls.
So maybe that's what Caitlin was alluding to. But it was kind of funny because Blake, when he was talking to Christina, was all like, all the girls love you. Was he being facetious? Because they cut immediately to the other girls talking smack about Christina, like the moment after Blake says, all the girls love you. Was he being facetious? Because it didn't seem like it was. It seemed like he was, because she was all like, oh, thank you. I don't know.
Maybe Dash too. Everyone obviously talks behind each other's backs, so you never know. They might think that's the case.
I thought that was the best part about tonight's episode, personally, was the exchange between Caitlin and Christina. That moment where she says, ultimately, my actions are not your business. I was with her on that. But then Caitlin came back and she was all like,
it's everyone's business.
Are all of our business. Is that true? Is there any sort of privacy that one can try to attain on the show? Or is it more of like this orgiastic, gross, emotional clusterfuck?
I think on this type of show, your actions are everyone's business.
Okay.
It's what you sign up. It's what you sign up for. Unless you get a date and you have that private moment, anything else is in the arena of public domain.
So prophesizing about next week, which one of them is staying, which one of them is going? There's no way Christina and Caitlin both stay. Are they both going?
Okay, wait. So the guys are giving out the roses. How many people are going?
Guys are giving out the roses. Let's assume another 2 to 3 will go, right? That's
how okay. 2 to 3. Yeah. I think Jen will go. I think.
Really? You don't think Chris is going to pick Jen over Katie?
I think he'll pick Katie.
Really? I think Katie, similar to Dylan, those two should have matched because they're both high maintenance. They are both exhausting. They are both hawks in what they watch people do and self-saboteurs, 100%. At least she knew that she was fucking herself over because ultimately I thought she was testing him. I don't think it was so much of a self-saboteur as that she was seeing what he would say and then he didn't say the right thing. And then she was like, oh, well, there it is. He failed the test. And then she put it on herself. To me, it's more on Chris than it is on Katie. Yes, it was stupid.
But he did say the right thing, didn't he? Because he said something that was super positive, and she just turned it around and be like, well, you can do what you want,
That's
And
what I thought
so,
he said. He said, "Is that really how you feel?" I thought he was just kind of getting her to clarify whether or not that's really how she
yeah,
feels.
well, that's a good reaction because it's like
Well, you heard
he,
what he wanted her to say.
yeah.
I will rip
So
your
I do
arm
think
off if you go out with another girl.
I know. Actually thought that was really good insight about the male mind. He might be an anomaly, I don't know, but like, yeah, you don't want jealousy per se, but you want kind of that wanting to be wanted,
Fair enough.
and she wasn't giving that to him.
I don't know much about Jen. Why do you think she's gonna go? Because I did find it interesting that they really focused on the other girls saying "Who dat?" as soon as she walked in. It's like nobody knew who she was. Did she go early in whatever season she was on prior?
No, Ben's season was a while ago. It was probably about 5 seasons ago.
Okay.
But she was on Bachelor in Paradise 2 seasons ago. So I think they were like, "Who's that?" Because she was so attractive. Like she was a threat.
Is Dean not giving it to her? Screw Chris giving it to her. If Chris sticks with Katie, Dean did say he thinks she's one of the most attractive girls ever in Bachelor Nation, if not the world.
And did they show previews about potential trouble in paradise for him and Caitlyn?
Oh, Caitlyn is a nightmare. He should switch to Jen immediately. If yes.
Yeah.
The stagecoach person too that Blake dealt with at Stagecoach. What the hell?
Oh my god. How many people is that now? Jen, Caitlyn, Kaylin, Christina. I'm sure there are more.
So as we think about wrapping this up here in the next 12 minutes, I want to talk about that last date, the catamaran with Chris and Jen, her third
That's
choice.
not her last date.
Did I miss another date? The lesbian reveal. That's absolutely right. We can talk about that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I lost a little interest in Demi at all. And I felt like that last date was really, let's get you on TV and we'll be the first lesbian couple of Bachelor Nation. Has there been a gay season at all?
No, of course not.
Will there ever be?
Who knows? This could be their forte into that arena. I think that there's a lot of criticism out there in the social sphere. One of the Bachelor alums or Bachelorette alums, like one of the main people from the franchise, called Demi out because she didn't do anything different the last season by having someone before coming on the show. And why is it any different just because it's a woman? Like discovering what you want by going on the show is what Jed did to a certain respect. It's not 100% the same, but there's a lot of talk about hypocrisy and double standards in the situation because it's a lesbian couple.
And an opportunity to give Alabama Hammer a cameo, right? Come on, I gave it an opportunity to come back.
Also, this is another thing that came up: is how would they have that videotape talk between the two of them before the season even started about Demi telling Hannah about the girlfriend, and then going on the show, and then Hannah coming on the show to talk about the girlfriend, and the girlfriend coming on the show. Like, this was planned. There's no
I agree. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that it was because they are greasing the wheels for a future gay season. I think that would be great if this is a way to ease us in, if they got to do a little extra scripting to get us to understand that.
All for it, like gay, or there's a show called Are You the One that's doing like a people who are just attracted to everybody dating show.
I heard about that.
And
Mon does a recap of that on Rap.
Yeah, so I think, if ABC goes down that route, good on them. I think it's the next generation of the world today, and I think it's fantastic, and I think it's true, and I think what Demi has with Christian is for real. There's no doubt about that. But the girl had, I don't know if I would be keen on jumping on reality television. I don't know, it just seems a bit weird, but
Yes, I completely
If
agree.
you're, if
He's
you're
not going to suddenly be like, okay, I'll just join a primetime dating show where we're going to showcase our
yeah.
relationship out of nowhere. There's got to be some primers for that. So I agree. That was the first, well, maybe not the first time, but the most emphasized time that I felt like, ugh, this is feeling a little too scripted for me. I want to go back though. I want to talk about the catamaran because it was hilarious that Chris was barfing all over the place, right?
Yes.
How
It
funny was that?
was awesome. It's so real. And it's so exactly what can happen on, dates. They never go perfectly. And I think it was super realistic. I think that it was perfect for it to happen to him. And I think Jen handled it like a champ. And I didn't see any romance with them prior to that. And obviously not after that until they got back to the homeland. It's good to see a reality check for them to get sick on the boat.
Was he given the opportunity to brush his teeth before the second part of the date?
Sure he was. Sure he was.
Was Derek swooping in on Katie while they were gone?
Oh, I love that. I think he wasn't swooping in for any other reason than to help her vent. That's why we like Derek. Derek's sweet. Derek needs to be the next
We're
Bachelor.
going to talk about a couple of lascivious things here. I hope you can handle it because there was a couple moments in it where I felt like there was heavy innuendo. The one was at the end of Chris and Jen's date, right before they cut to commercial. She kisses his neck, and then she goes underwater in the hot tub and they cut the commercial. It looked like something extra sexy was about to go down there. Maybe you missed that, but it seemed like a very strange cut to me. I'm really curious to see who Chris gives the rose to, because that's another really interesting thing I want to talk about. Is I feel like Chris has been spoiled by this process. After 6 seasons, he talks so much about, I want a regular relationship, I want a wife, but I don't believe him like I believe Cam believes that. I feel like he's been spoiled. I don't feel there's any going back after.
He's going to keep getting older, and the women are all going to stay the same age. He'll be dating 27-year-olds until the day he dies.
I'm with you on that. Let's talk about Nicole's song for Clay.
Do we have to?
Well, that's the other area where I was like, holy shit, this is some serious innuendo, right? At the top of it? Or was I crazy? Was I just hearing things that she's too stupid to have put in there consciously? I'm not going to repeat them, but for those of you who are wondering whether or not Nicole is hypersexualized.
Your big muscle, something about not making me frown, or her frown lines are gone. I don't know. She was just bouncing around like a kid on a trampoline. I was just, calm down. She's like, honestly, between her skirt, that song, and her giggling, I was just like, are we in the 5th grade again? It was just hard to watch.
I'm with
you. This is where I said they're a dorky relationship, because it was dorky, but if she can be herself like that around him, that's pretty cool.
That's true. And honestly, even if she was being insinuative, that makes me like her maybe a little bit more, even though she's on ABC and she's saying stuff like, want you in my tummy and won't you come stuff. It was a little bit weird to me. Is she a good singer, though?
She's all right. Better than some I've heard.
Her laugh is a bit annoying, though, isn't it?
I honestly I find her a bit annoying. Like, I really liked her in the season because she was picked on big time during her season. She got super emotional all the time. I felt for her. Now she's got the attention, and you know what? Actually, she did handle it well, because I think she's with Clay till the end. I get the vibe that they're going to get engaged at the end. But she's a bit annoying. I don't know. I don't love her. I don't hate her. She's kind of like meh.
2 last things I want to talk about. The last couple minutes here. Do you think that Christina, or the new Christian rather, is going to be accepted? How does it work in terms of the roses with them? What do you think is going to go down? Is she going to then become one of the male rose givers, or how's that going to work?
I don't think they'll be included in the rose ceremony. I think they'll just be included. I think Demi's there to the end, because Demi's not going to go back and forth. She's made her decision. Okay. They're there to just have a nice little holiday. They'll probably get engaged at the end, and they'll call it a day. I don't know if it's fair to include them into the rose ceremony.
That makes
It
me
wouldn't
think
make
that
it wouldn't make any sense.
this definitely could be then a setup for a gay season. I think if that's what you're telling me, they're like these peripheral characters now. They don't go by the same rules and regulations everyone else on the show. I feel like there's got to be some reason for that, and it could easily be. Can you imagine? Wasn't the first like African American Bachelorette, right? Wasn't that great ratings for them? Didn't it really create a lot of buzz? Get people talking around the watercolor, or no?
Greatest, but I mean, they still haven't done a male black black bachelor. So that's where my stuff. No, but I think Demi's gonna get engaged at Bachelor in Paradise.
Oh, okay, all right. That's a reason to keep him around then. Final thing,
Yeah,
we did last week the archetypes with the guys on the show. We don't have to go straight up archetypes, but I'd rather compare the girls that are left to Disney princesses. If you're willing to end the show with this, I got a couple of them.
All right.
Curious which ones I'm missing that you might have a good connection to. I've only seen portions of it. I know people love Frozen, but there is the blonde, potentially lesbian Eliza in Frozen, right? Is her name Eliza? What's her name?
So that's Demi, right? Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that makes sense.
Right? Yep, for sure.
Christina, I'm giving
I never saw Frozen. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only seen parts of Frozen. I kind of fell asleep during it. It wasn't really necessarily my bag. But it was cool. It would look different. It was a different sort of like a Pixar-Disney hybrid, a new version for Disney animation. Christina Esmeralda from Hunchback of Notre Dame, where she kind of like friend zones you, but still wants to use your strength.
Totally. I like that.
Nicole was a tough one for me because she did have that literary capacity, but she is super immature. I wasn't really sure. Only because she wrote poetry, I gave her Belle, but I don't know if that's right. And Clay's kind of like the beast. I don't know. Like really silly voice, but then the huge body. He's got these weird dichotomies. I kind of saw more of a Belle than anybody else, and especially if she was rejected so hard in the last ones or in the last season she was on.
Yeah, fair enough.
Taisha, I feel like Tiana probably from Princess and the Frog, and not.
I was gonna go with Katie for that one, but go ahead.
Oh, you know what? Katie's the one I couldn't figure out who the hell she would be. I don't necessarily think she would be a princess. Similar to Caitlyn, who I gave Maleficent, because I feel like she's the villain. I know you like your Caitlyn, but I
don't like her. I don't defend Caitlyn. I actually think she's just very young. I don't know. I can't relate to her at all. Jen. Shoot. Oh, Jasmine.
Okay, I could see that. That makes sense to me.
Or that could be maybe Tayshia.
Who's the most privileged one? Because Jasmine's got to be that privileged girl who's open to a schlub.
Oh, privileged. Shoot, I'm drawing like a blank of all
Who
the
is the
people.
biggest shot? Who's the biggest shot? Like guys or girls? Is Chris the biggest shot? He owns the restaurant and stuff. Who's the biggest shot? Who has the best life outside of Bachelor Nation?
Okay, well, Dean lives in a van. Clay he was in the NFL, but he didn't get drafted this season. The John Paul Jones, I don't know, he might have a good gig. Derek sells insurance or something like that.
He is a Jim Halpert. He really is.
He totally is. He lives in Iowa, records himself playing music on Instagram and works in a cubicle. And he will do videos of him in the cubicle and pictures of himself saying, this is what a real job, or this is what a job of not being an influencer is, or something like that. It was pretty snarky towards the rest of his
I like him more. I'm on Team Derek.
He's good. Yeah. Then, I mean, I think overall Wells has it the best. He's a DJ and he's engaged to Sarah Hyland, so I think he's going to live a good little life. And then he's a radio DJ, not like a DJ. Yeah, he's like a voice. Who else? Who else? Dylan. Oh, Dylan's got his startup in Silicon Valley. Then.
Oh, okay.
Sydney was she was a dancer for a football team. Oh, Mike he was an Air Force vet, and now I don't know what he does. I think he might be a lawyer. He might be a lawyer. And John Paul Jones' career on the Bachelorette season was John Paul Jones, where it says your name and then your job. Who am I missing?
He is a breath of fresh air. I gotta give it to him.
Yeah.
Comparatively, I don't know. I think you hit them all. I'm feeling pretty good about tonight's episode of the Parasocialdise. If I'm honest with you, is there any last comments or questions you wanted to hit me with before we wrap it up?
The sound to work. Smooth sailing.
We are
from now on. Parasocialdise until.
It's so easy to say. It's so easy to search. But now that we are actually up and running, we can start trying to promote it. I'll start popping it out on that Twitter, and we can get the episodes up a couple hours earlier in terms of letting people know that they're going to happen.
But honestly, I'm sorry for calling Christina a bully. I don't think she's a bully at all.
She's a mosquito.
She's a strong woman character.
I do like Christina a lot. I think she's very fun to watch. She's one of my top 3 girls right now, maybe top 2 even, especially now that Jane and Bibiana are gone forever. But nevertheless, another fun week of Bachelor and Parasocialdise. We want to thank everyone who was watching or listening after the fact. You can catch us on iTunes or Stitcher. Look for the podcast version of this Popcast. Or you can always watch us here after the shows on Tuesdays, where we'll wrap up the entire week 10 to 15 minutes after the show finishes. I want to thank you again, Magpie Jones, for being part of this. Is there anything you want to promote this week?
No, I don't.
Blue Apron.
I always forget to think of something. I'll think of something next week.
Fair enough. I want to remind viewers to check out my novel company, Dreamer, and I wanted to alert you that next month, Compudactyl will have their 3rd album released. The album title is They Would Know It Was Us. We're working diligently on making sure this is the best album yet, so get excited, ladies and gentlemen, and more importantly, get affected.